My name is McNamara, I'm the leader of the band. Although we're few in numbers, we're the finest in the land. We play at wakes and weddings and at every fancy ball.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to An Evening with Senator Mike Moore. Mike, this is our 30th show, 2.5 years we've been together on this program.
Well, happy anniversary.
Same to you. We couldn't stay together for 2.5 minutes.
On the board?
On the board of selectmen. And here we are.
Now we sat right next to each other for 8 years.
I don't know how we did that without killing each other, but we did, and here we are. But that's quite a milestone, and it seems, actually, what seems uncanny that you've been in office for 3 years now.
Actually, I'm into my fourth.
Yeah, you're coming into your fourth, and but you've been in an actual 3 years.
Yeah.
And here we are at St. Patrick's Day, and we're right in tune with that.
Yes,
with our St. Patrick's Day. I tried to get McNamara's band to come to be on the show with us today, but it didn't work out.
So we don't have any Irish music playing in
We
the
do have. We have
Danny
Irish
Boy.
music in the.
Danny Boy.
Why, you want Danny Boy?
That was my father's favorite song.
Well, if that was your father's favorite song, you know what?
We'll get Danny Boy in the
We're going to
background.
have Danny Boy in the background on this show. And I'm glad you told me that. As soon as we're done taping, I will work with the producer.
There you go.
And we'll do that for Archie. You know, it's funny, speaking of your father, we were talking about Archie, myself and some people that knew your father and your uncle. And we were reminiscing about some of the crazy antics that they used to do.
At town meeting?
Yeah. And they were, I'll tell you, they could have been the version back in the 60s and 70s of the Two and a Half Men. You know, they really could have. When I stop and think of, and they never rehearsed any of the things that they did. I wish we had the technology back then that we have now, because if we caught some of their stuff on tape and put it on TV, it would be absolutely hilarious. And I don't know who was funnier, your uncle or your
But you
father.
know something? At least they participated. You know, people have so much control of their local government here in Massachusetts by going to town meeting, by participating in their town elections, and they don't utilize it. They went. I mean, every town meeting they were there.
Oh, they were.
Never missed it, and so.
And I can hear your father's one-liners. You know, he could take an issue and turn it right around on you. I mean, really, I wish we had the technology, because it was something to see. And then your uncle, oh my God, between the two of them, you'd be suicidal before you walked out of a room talking to those two guys. And if they were either for something or against it, their passion for what they were arguing, I mean, they just wouldn't let it go.
There was also, I remember for a while there, Sil Bordeaux? Who was it?
Yeah, he.
Is that like?
But he used to do bad. I think if I remember right, they agreed to disagree. Sil was another one that used to. Sil was a very smart man.
Yep.
And not that your father and your uncle weren't, because they obviously were. But Sil was a very stern, very. He was a teacher that you dreaded to have in school, even though he wasn't a teacher.
Okay.
And because he was so strict, but because of his radicalness, a lot of points got missed with Sil. You know, and he was good friends with the late Harold Ostrowski. They were kind of like a spin-off from your father and your uncle. And it used to be your uncle and Archie, and it used to be Sil and Harry.
Harold.
What was your uncle's first name? I forgot.
Bill.
Bill. That's it, Bill.
Yep.
But those were the days, and I used to just like going to a town meeting to see what your uncle and your father were going to do, because you knew that no town meeting was going to go without suffering from their wrath. I mean, and they never let you down. It was there. And I can remember your mother sitting up in the back like this, trying to hide her face, and I'm not with them, you know. But it was a good time. We did a little reminiscing there. It's good to look back. Anybody who remembers your father and Bill, your Uncle Bill, they can appreciate what I'm saying here, because I don't think you're old. I think you were too young to appreciate what they were doing early on, anyways.
Yeah, no, I used to remember him just going to town meeting.
Yeah, but you had to be there to see what they did at town meeting. And your father was really funny on the planning board too.
He loved the planning board.
Yes,
he really
did. And you know what? He knew that job. He really put his heart and soul into that job.
I used to remember him coming home, and that's something I've always remembered, is that he would always say, talk about people coming before the board and had certain issues, and he used to always say that his opinion of people being on the board is that you're supposed to try to help people get to where they're going,
Right.
not cause roadblocks. Where he'd come home at times, and the times that he'd be aggravated, and he'd say that, yeah, this person, they just wouldn't just found everywhere they could just try to stop the person, instead of trying to find a way to help the person navigate through the various bylaws and get to the end road successfully. So.
You know, and that was kind of sort of where I was going when I was on the Board of Selectmen. My primary reason for running for the board was to cut through red tape for people. I really wasn't into. I get bored with some of the things that we got into, like roads and telephone poles and moving a pole from here. Who cares? But if you got into a person issue, I was right there. You know,
Yep.
not
Yep.
always right, but I.
Well, I know a few times you were wrong.
Yeah, on one or two occasions.
Very seldom.
Yeah, very rare, very rare. As you were very rarely wrong. I mean, we just couldn't see it at the time. But someday, maybe at the end of your career in politics, we'll sit here and tell people what really brought us together as friends on the Board of Selectmen.
That's right.
I wouldn't tell that story now.
No.
But
Just one issue.
Huh?
One issue.
One issue.
Yeah.
And we were good at. I mean, I think of that. That was a.
Yep, we worked together on it. It came out very successful.
Yeah, it came out perfect.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of us saying, you know, we spend all this money to run against each other, and I never did forgive you for always beating me in the election by a few votes. That's the thing that really aggravated me. Maybe if I just worked a little bit harder, or you worked a little bit less, you know.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
And speaking of fun, but that was yesterday. Now we're going to do today.
And again, since it's St. Patty's Day, actually, we can maybe try to plan this for Millbury sometime. March 7th, I actually sponsored with one of the selectmen in Auburn. We did a corned beef dinner for all the seniors. And actually, it was over 100 people there. So that's maybe something we can look on doing maybe next year in Millbury.
Hey, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's corned beef and cabbage. You know, you get a good turnout. So and actually Valentine's Day we did a in Leicester. Myself and the representative John Benenda did a brunch for the veterans and the seniors out there. We had about 140 people.
Is there any truth to the rumor you don't invite me to these things because you know how I like to eat?
Well, actually, if you're interested, maybe you can come and do the DJing next time.
No, I'm retired from that.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm done. I'm done DJing. I said when that became a job I would quit. And it became a job in 2009, and I quit.
Okay.
And I stayed. Of course, it took 54 years for it to become a job, but I'm a little slow sometimes. All right, we're gonna get into the 21st century, folks, and a little fireside chat, little Jimmy Carter talk, I guess. Franklin Roosevelt.
Roosevelt.
Well, Jimmy Carter did it too. He sat there with
Jimmy
his Perry
Carter did it?
Como
Really?
sweater.
Really? Okay.
And one of his speeches, he sat there with his Perry Como sweater and sat in front of a fireplace. And of course, Jimmy Carter never really had much to say that made much sense, but he looked good. You know, Jimmy Carter's a nice man. I like Jimmy Carter. I did.
It's actually funny. He's had much more success after he left the presidency as an ambassador or working, you know, going to other as a foreign emissary for the United States, working out negotiating deals with other countries, representing us there. So it's funny, someone who wasn't successful, who wasn't deemed to be successful as a president, later in other aspects of representing the country, he became very well respected.
Jimmy Carter, even as president, I didn't care for him as a president because obviously things just never went his way, never got the breaks.
Right.
But he was a very nice man.
Oh, I agree.
And as you just said, that projected after he left the White House. To this day.
Yeah. As a diplomat, he was wonderful for the country.
And now I think he builds houses for
I don't know.
for humanity. He's 80 something, I think. He is still. I hope he's still alive. Yeah, he's still alive, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of batting 1,000.
I was trying to avoid that question.
Yeah, I believe he is, though.
Okay.
I believe he is. And, yeah, he is.
Okay.
I'm good. So before I get you into any trouble, because I really have done well for 30 shows and
You
not
have.
got you into trouble, I don't want to start tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just so much going on with you lately. I see more of you than I do my wife. And that's not a good thing.
She may be happy with that.
Yeah, she's ecstatic. She was thrilled. That I was going out today to tape the show. Unfortunately, I told her I'd be home for supper, and she was disappointed with that. But anyways, now we're going to get into what we normally talk about here. What we're going to talk about here, and I found this very interesting, and I'm going to ask you a question after you give us a background on this. Some time ago, a few weeks ago, we were given a waiver from No Child Left Behind, and I always liked that phrase when that was done. Was that Bill Clinton that come up with that?
No, actually, I think it was under the Bush
administration.
Bush was president, and you had a Democratic
House
and Senate.
Right. I like that phrase, no child left behind, because I really firmly believe that. But anyways, the President, Barack Obama, anybody who didn't know he was the president, and the U.S. Department of Education has given us a waiver. And I'd like to know why and what it entails.
Well, basically, the No Child Left Behind Act, when it was established, it pretty much established the standardized testing, where the students had to be proficient in math and science by 2014. Now, one of the flaws that was recognized when the law was passed is that you may see greater achievements when the law was first passed and the proficiency standard is implemented. What has happened now is Massachusetts, if you were to look at our school districts, 80 to 90%, if we didn't get this waiver, 80 to 90% of our school districts could be considered failing based on the No Child Left Behind Act.
Really?
Yes. But the problem is, now this is where the flaw is, math and science, we are testing the highest in the country. So even though our results, we're testing them, exactly. So this is the flaw. So basically, Massachusetts, we've been waived from this. We are one of 10 states. We still have to have a standardized testing, but now we get some flexibility as far as that goes, and there's some flexibility as far as the proficiency. We have to be proficient by 2017, I think the waiver allows us to do now, but it brings back some flexibility to the state on giving the Department of Education the ability to work with the standardized testing and the criteria.
My question to you,
Yep.
in your opinion, or maybe besides an opinion, would you say that the No Child Left Behind has been successful for the most part?
For the most part, it did standardize. It did provide some standardized testing across the state as far as school districts, as far as the achievements that trying to close the achievement gap. And basically, The waiver is granted upon the race to the top that we did last year. If you look at that now, we've established a tiered system where if your school district is rated number 1, that's the strongest, and rated number 5, that's the lowest. So we have an underperforming school, that's level 4 and level 5. The State Department of Education can now come in and they can address issues that they deem as I guess reasons for the school to be underperforming and try to correct them, which if you have a school, they could come in and replace the principal. They can come in and look at the curriculum.
They did that.
Some parts of their collective bargaining agreements can be looked at and adjusted. One of the schools in the city of Worcester that I represent, the Union Hill School, they had that problem. They were deemed an underperforming, a level 4 underperforming school. And if I remember correctly, this was about a year and a half ago. If I remember correctly, this is one of the flaws in the system too. Is they came in, the principal who had only been there for a little over a year ended up being replaced or transferred to another school. But that's because because they were rated an underperforming school. So the principal was replaced, a new one was put in, and added courses. I think they went to an extended day. They added like an hour and a half onto each day to try to address the students that needed to get some more school time. But that's the flaw. I mean, so even our system has some flaws that it's hard to blame the teacher. We shouldn't really be blaming the teacher based on some of the hurdles that are facing them. And like in the city of Worcester, there's language barriers. There's other barriers that they have to face with some of the students that the suburbs don't have to face. But the level 4, I mean, this whole system now that we have the waiver in place, the race to the top procedures is basically what allowed us to get the waiver. So now that the schools, the Department of Education can come in based on this and review the curriculum, make changes where they deem necessary, just for the underperforming schools.
Oh, okay.
So
Makes sense to me. And Massachusetts always seems to lead the way. Didn't Rhode Island or some school district or 1 or 2 school districts come in and fired all the teachers? And
yes, and that was actually that was right.
Was that in Rhode Island, or was that in Massachusetts?
No, it was Rhode Island and Connecticut. That was right after we had just as we were debating the race to the top, because the race to the top gives the community or the Department of Education the ability to come in and basically do that. That's when I talk about the collective bargaining.
Right.
That's some of the authority that is given for schools that are level 4 or actually level 5, that the Department of Education come in and take drastic measures.
That's about as drastic
Right.
as you can get.
So, and that's what.
But it worked.
Well, we'll have to see what's happening with Union. Right. Well, we'll have to see what's happening in Worcester with the Union Hill School.
Right.
I mean, the good thing about that, the city did work with the union, and they did negotiate the extra hour and a half and the rates of pay and what's going to be expected to them. We have one issue right now, and actually with the race to the top, the state actually received, I think it was $200 million we received in federal money to come back to the state as because it was a grant process that we applied for with this Race to the Top program. So we did get monies from federal money to come in to help implement our Race to the Top program. And now, which again now benefited us to the No Child Left Behind Act, to have that.
So we weren't surprised that we got the waiver. You think it had anything to do with the governor being friendly with the president?
No,
No?
not at all.
Not at all? Okay. Are you serious?
I don't think so. I wouldn't think it would be that. I would think it would be based on the merits of the program.
Well, I say that, but I think if the governor went to him and said, look, Scott, we really, based on the merits and based on what we've done and based on what we want to do, would you consider us for a...
Well, I would think that in the fact, how do you argue, or how does someone dispute that you're testing number 1 and 2 in the country, in some cases internationally, in math and science, yet your schools are deemed failing? Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
So,
But I always find that sometimes government is,
also, so I think this is one way to help rectify and solve that contradiction.
okay, I always thought that the one advantage that the state of Massachusetts has is the fact that our governor is friendly with the president.
Oh, I would think so.
know?
I think that helps us.
I mean, I'd like to think if you were president and I picked up the telephone and said, "Hey, Mike," or Mr. President,
Oh, Mike would be fine.
could you do ABC for me, or my state, or my town? And you would say, for
No
you,
pro-
Joe,
no problem,
anything.
Joe.
No problem. Right, exactly. Now that let's wake up and move on. During his State of the State, Governor Deval Patrick has put forth an ambitious proposal to create a community college system throughout the Commonwealth. And you being the chair for the Committee on Higher Education, what are your thoughts on that proposal, sir?
Well, I actually think if you watch the State of the State and then you watched the President Obama give his State of the Union, actually President Obama actually commented on the importance of the community colleges and the services or programs they provide in workforce development, workforce retraining. What we're hearing from the business community and the Mass Competitive Partnership, which is it's a collaborative of businesses, that there's roughly about 120,000 jobs in Massachusetts that we can't fill because the employees don't have the skills. They're not saying they need associate degrees. They're not saying that they need bachelor's degrees, but they could need a 6-month certificate or a 12-month training program where they get a license, and it could be in like a radiologist. It could be a lab tech. It could be some sort of in one of these high-tech fields. But right now, the way the community colleges are structured, if you were to go to and actually we got a bill coming out that hopefully within next week we're going to be working on some of these proprietary schools, which is the ITT tech, like the tech schools and those types of things. If I lost my job today, I could go to their school and next week be in a program to be learning a new skill. Currently, right now, the community colleges don't have that ability. If I lose my job and I want to go to the community college to go back to school, and there's a program that they're offering, like I've got a friend that's taking a computer forensic class. It's a certificate program, but you have to wait for that semester to start. So it's not something you can start immediately, so you've got to wait. So part of the issues that they're having, the business community is stating, is the fact that community colleges, such as Quinsigamond, should be servicing, not doing away with the educational component, the liberal arts, criminal justice degrees, or nursing degrees, dental hygiene. Not that they should be doing away with those, but they should be supplementing their programs with the needs of the local workforce. You could have a manufacturing company that wants to come in here, but it's a high-tech type of manufacturing that needs to be done. Well, if you don't have a trained workforce, who's going to fill those jobs? And that with 120,000 people out there, those are the people that we could be training to, not just the students coming out, graduating, going out into the workforce. But these are people who may have lost their job that could get the training and come in and fill those positions. There was one, the Boston Foundation actually talked about, there was a report put out by them that Roxbury Community College, a lot of it seemed to be focused on Boston. It's a community college that's in Roxbury, but in the area of Roxbury that it's located, it's a big medical industry type, is the predominant industry. But when you go to the community college, there's no programs geared to those industries. So they need a workforce or employees coming out, students coming out with certain skills, but they've had trouble working with the college establishing programs. And so if these employees receive them, there's jobs waiting for them. There's jobs that these people can come out and get if they only have the skills geared towards the local regional economy. So that's the whole focus of it. And I have some concerns as far as what they want to do. As the governor right now is recommending that all the funding for community colleges be funneled to one line item to the Department of Higher Education. and the Department of Higher Education then will then break down the funding for each one of the 15 community colleges. Now, the concern I have with that is, right now, Quinsigamond Community College does a great job. It really does a good job providing programs. It's got one of the highest rates of FTEs, full-time enrollment, of new students. Yet it's within the bottom 5 of funding of the 15 community colleges. The way the funding has always worked in the past, it's always been whichever school had the political clout to get more funding. Well, now we're trying to look at funding formulas to say that it's kind of like we do for the K through 12, that there's a formula for funding to make sure that it's an equitable funding, that it's not just, doesn't just matter that your senator, your rep has got this committee assignment or clout where he can get more funding for it. It's going to be a fair and equitable based on the student enrollment. So my concern is, unless we go to that, you don't want to give the Department of Higher Education the authority to have all the funding and then go to Quinsigamond and say, well, look, we don't want you providing dental hygiene anymore. We're going to have a community college down the Cape. The Cape Cod Community College provide that program. Well, where do the students graduating from this area get to obtain those skills if the Board of Higher Ed says, oh, no, we're going to have this college do it? So I see the need for each community college to have a variety of programs and some autonomy. So, but I do also think we have to strike a middle ground to what the governor and the workforce, a lot of the industry says about trying to better utilize the community colleges in workforce development, which other states do. North Carolina does it, Tennessee does it. So it's an interesting concept. I think we're going to be looking at it. Actually, I just got appointed last week. The Senate President just put me on a working group where I'm the chair of the Higher Ed Committee in the Senate. Myself, and there's going to be one other senator that's going to be working, that was put on a working group to work with the governor's office and the House of Representatives to try to hopefully come to some proposal with reforming the community colleges. So long-winded answer, but there's some merit to it, but I think in some cases it may have gone too far.
Could you repeat that? No.
Sure.
We all
Not that I've looked into it either.
No, I can tell that you have absolutely very little knowledge of this whole concept and this whole program, and you certainly need to do more research
Yes.
before you can put it into effect. You know, something, Mike, that we always talk about, and that, of course, is a shortage of the number of police officers on the street.
Yep.
But something that isn't talked about too much, and equally as important, are the men and women that fight fires.
Yes.
And especially most recently with the tragedy in Worcester, and then the tragedy in the Boston area there. What was that? Right afterwards.
Yeah, the further North Shore area, I think it was.
Anyways, it certainly brings attention that these men and women, as our police officers do, they put their life on the line. And I'm kind of happy, and I want to know more about it, and I'm sure the folks out there want to know more about it, that it's been a while since there's been an exam for firefighters given by the state, and I assume on the civil service. And can you kind of fill us in about just exactly why, or what, and who, and how?
Well, I'm going to refer to my notes on this one.
Okay, it's okay.
There's going to be a firefighter examination similar to the police. That's civil service. There's a statewide firefighter exam that's given through civil service. That it's going to be given in 2012. The minimum entrance requirements: the applicant must be 19 years of age as of April 2nd, 2012. Applicants must be a non-smoker at the time of an appointment.
I qualify.
That's right. You do qualify now.
I do qualify now.
Here's the tough part for you, though. Applicants must pass the medical and physical ability examination prior to appointment.
What are you trying to say?
No? You may not run as fast as you used to.
Depends who's chasing me.
The test is going to consist of a written examination and an entry-level physical abilities test. The application deadline for the written examination is March 19th, and the fee is $100. There's an additional $50 processing fee for the applications received after March 19th, and they will not be accepted beyond April 2nd. And so the exam will be held at the Hudson National Guard Armory and must be completed by August 14th. So, I mean, a good sign here is that, you know, the cities and towns are going to have the opportunity to have a standing list of people qualified to fill the vacancies. I think I saw in the Worcester papers, either Worcester, they were even looking at either police or fire backfilling some vacancies that they had. So,
Are all fire departments civil service in the state?
no, not all. Well, you have,
Like the police? Half, about half.
Well, I think most full-time fire departments, I think the majority are full-time or civil service. It's the on-call or volunteer, obviously, that are not civil service. I think Worcester's a full.
Worcester holds their own civil service. They have their own civil service.
But Worcester's
program.
full-time. Auburn, I think, is a mixture of full-time and call.
Milford is full-time.
Shrewsbury's a mixture of call, full and part-time, or full and call. Grafton's similar to Millbury's call. Millbury, Grafton a call. Leicester is, I believe Leicester is call. They may have a full-time chief.
Sutton has a full-time chief.
Sutton has a full-time chief. If you looked at the fire departments, the call fire departments for cities and towns, well, I should say more towns. I don't know of any large cities that right now are a call. It's really a great. If you're looking at cost of town services, it's really a good way of providing top quality fire service on less of a burden on the tax rate to the taxpayers, because of the training. They have the same training requirements. They all have to go through academies.
Yep.
So they're fully trained, and
Best bang for our buck
it
in
really is.
Millbury, or any town.
yeah, no, it is. It really is a great bang for the dollar.
But I
The
think
tax dollar.
someday we're going to have to face, and I think that day is, well, this will start a furor. I think that day is rapidly approaching where Millbury's going to have to look at what we do as far as firefighters and ambulance go. I think the economic situation will dictate how we carry on,
Yeah.
because we're a pretty busy little town.
No, yeah, but you've got some communities again like Auburn and Shrewsbury, Shrewsbury's 32,000 people now, and they're a combination. Auburn's roughly, well, Grafton's 18,000. Auburn's roughly between 16 and 17,000.
But they also have the paramedics and the EMTs. They run the ambulance service in Auburn too.
Yeah.
Having been having had the pleasure twice of going
Utilizing the service.
utilizing their service. I can't say enough about Auburn's. I think I said that on their show we did from the
Yeah.
nursing home. That I can't get over how great those paramedics were, and I had paramedics both times. Class act, and and that's not taking anything away from our ambulance service, but I didn't need the one in Millbury, although I did use the one in Millbury once. I've been in more. I used to work on an ambulance, and in the last 3 years, I think I've ridden in them more than I did when I worked on.
Driving or providing the service.
I was providing a service.
So someone would have to wake up from their whatever to Joe looking down at them.
Yes, and that would bring you back to life. That would immediately bring you right
shock
back
factor.
to life, because the last thing they wanted was this ugly guy here doing CPR or anything like that. I can honestly say, all the years I worked on the ambulance service, I was never successful in doing CPR, and the success rate is very low on CPR anyway. I don't know if you do. I think it's about, I don't know. I don't want to. I think it's about 18%.
Okay.
Okay. Or some ridiculous thing. Brian Stoll could tell us, because he.
Yeah. Well, your favorite topic, taxes.
Yes.
I know you're a staunch proponent of raising every tax that there is.
Yeah, that's me.
The governor approves his budget again, and
I looked at that budget and the
And-
soda pop and
yeah, so
The cigarettes
So this is this is the fourth year now. Well, this will be the fourth budget that I'll be taking part in, and every budget that I've been involved in, the sin tax, the sugar and cigarettes, the expanded border bill, they've all been part of it. And again, I don't see right now. I don't see any.
I would hope not, Mike. Remember last show, our last show, I said, I made a comment about Deval. He never met a tax he didn't like, but I prefixed with that is I think the man is very good in emergencies. I think the man reacts very well, and I had said that. And just when I think I also said that just as I start to grow a fondness for the man, he comes up with these crazy taxes. I mean, I don't smoke anymore, and so it's easy for me to sit and say, look, I don't care if you raise the price of cigarettes to $20 a pack. But, you know, smokers have rights too, even though I'm not one.
And you have to remember, some of these groups that we work with that are advocating for increases in the taxes for some of these items. You've got some who are advocating for doing away with the exemption on the soda and the sugar tax and candy. They're also looking at it. They're also looking at it as a way to deter people from buying these items, as a way to fight obesity.
Not the government's job.
No, I'm just saying. I'm telling you what their.
Oh, I know what
position is.
their
And
reason
it's the same thing with smoking. I think it's $51 million that they're talking about. This would raise.
All you do is drive people to New Hampshire to buy their cigarettes, buy their booze, buy their
it's
candy
still being purchased,
now.
but from other states.
But
So-
it makes sense to me now. One-stop shopping in New Hampshire. If you're a smoker and you drink booze and you want candy.
Well, the alcohol one was repealed.
Yeah, I know that. But and that's they say that the soda and the regular soda, not diet soda, and candy doesn't have any value as far as being good for you. Well, when did alcohol become good for you? The only difference is, people that make the laws, they sit down and they socialize a lot. And a big part of American socialization is alcohol. So I can see. So there's no rhyme or reason. If I want to bring up a fat kid, I should have that right. I want to be fat myself. That's my right. I don't need the government to tell me how to eat. I watch some of these people. I was watching somebody on TV this afternoon. They were really into this I'm going to make you skinny thing, and I'm watching this on TV, and I'm saying, if somebody told me this kind of crap was going to be on TV 30 years ago, I said, what are you, nuts? But it's true. Everybody knows what's good for me. I know what's good for me. As you can see, and I do very well with it, too.
But anyway, I don't right now think you're going to see and the speaker's already come up for it. I haven't heard the Senate President comment on it yet, but I don't think you're going to see the sin taxes be part of the budget.
That's good.
So-
You guys, you folks used your head last time, and I think...
Well, and I think it's hard to justify right now. If you look, we've got 1.4 in the rainy day fund.
Yeah.
So within the top 3 or 4 states in the country, in our rainy day fund, the unemployment rate is low compared to the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
We see we just lowered the income tax, a very small percentage, but we still lowered it.
Yeah,
If
it made
we-
a
if we-
difference in my lifestyle.
Oh, if we had gone up that percentage, people would be going crazy.
Oh, they go crazy, absolutely.
The corporate excise tax was reduced.
Yeah.
So with all these positive, and we just froze the unemployment rate for companies, so with all these positive economic initiatives and results that we're seeing, how do you now then go and raise a tax on something?
Right.
I mean, the big issue in this budget, I think, is going to be how we deal with the MBTA and that issue. And for myself now with the higher ed and the community, is that going to be part of the budget, or do we do a separate piece of reform? So,
Well, I was watching Channel 25 today, and they really got tortured I'm talking about the MBTA, which is always was one of my favorite places to pick on. Still haven't figured out why we pay for the MBTA when they don't do anything for Millbury other than run a train for 2 seconds through.
Well, there's an assessment given out because,
Oh, I know what
Yeah.
the reason is.
right, so,
But I still don't agree with it. But anyways, they got tortured on the high salaries, which was something I brought up when I was on the Board of Selectmen. Here you are wanting me to subsidize the MBTA, and you're paying a MBTA police lieutenant 120 grand a year. That's more than most lieutenants make in municipal departments.
is that,
Yeah,
is that the
yeah,
goal?
I had the whole list of salaries. About $58 million in salaries alone. Not a bad job. You know, you don't want me to talk on my cell phone while I'm working there? Well, let me tell you, if I got a job with the MBTA, I'd
But
throw
now
my cell phone away.
I think now you're talking the train conductors and the,
Oh, they make pretty good dough, too.
no, that's what I mean, but the train conductors and the bus drivers with the talking on the phones. I don't think there's been as far as the police go, I know they've had a lot of issues because a lot of the areas they cover in the inner city. No, they've got some areas where that they have to have concern for the safety of the.
Oh, I agree.
Riders.
I don't disagree with that. I don't think anybody in the workplace should be allowed to speak on their cell phone. I think those 8 hours. I think an employer has the right to expect that his employee will be 100% paying attention to his job and not be on the cell phone. I go nuts. I mean, I walk into a store and to buy something, and the clerk's on the telephone. You walk into offices, and half the people that work in the office are on their cell phone. I'm saying it's a good thing I'm not their boss, because they'd be gone. And now with the texting, nothing more
Now,
aggravating.
what's texting?
Yeah, I don't do it, but they sit there and like a mutual friend. I'm not going to mention his name, but you know who I'm talking about. He's on our golf committee for your golf tournament.
Oh, yes, all right.
Okay, I mean, he sits there and talks to you, and he's like this. It drives me right out of my mind. It does. I want to hit him. I get so upset with him.
Oh, actually, you mentioned something. March 11th.
Yes.
March 11th, for seniors 60 and over, I will be sponsoring a breakfast
Right.
at the VFW at no charge, complimentary,
9 to 11.
9 to 11. So,
You want to come? It's a continental breakfast.
continental breakfast. So,
And we got a good crew working that. I'm in charge,
so
and it should really be a mess. No,
again, it's no charge for
No,
anyone
no
60,
charge.
60 and over. So,
16 over. Yes, we hope you come to that. Like I say, it runs 9 to 11,
so
and
then I think the Worcester. Then right after that, Worcester has
their parade,
St. Patty's Day
Right.
parade.
and so his speech won't be long-winded because he'll have to get to the parade. You in the parade?
Yes. Yep.
Do you have a bus or anything this
No,
year?
this year I'm just marching. They want, if I remember correctly, it's $850 to have a float, or
Really?
yeah. So
Yeah, I can understand it.
yeah, so it's very expensive.
Very expensive.
So we just plan on marching at it in the last 2 years.
Which is why we're throwing a free breakfast to help them offset the cost of the bus. No, I'm just kidding. I thought of that one, folks. Duh. Hey, we got some time, Mike. I'd like to talk a little bit, if we can, about the local election that's coming up. Specifically, and I know you have feelings on this, and I do too. Specifically, I'd like to talk about what I hope is a selectman's race, and what I hope is a school committee race, because those are very important. Go ahead. Your show. You start, and what you miss, I'll pick up the pieces here.
Well, first I want to thank Selectman Ken Scholl.
Yes.
'Cause I know he's announced that he's not going to be running for re-election. So I want to thank him for the many years that he's been on the board. He's done a good job.
9 years.
9 years for being on the board. But, you know, the last 4 years, you know, I obviously I watched more, pay attention more to the votes and the percentage. Actually, going back, I guess, more to the selectmen years, that if you look at the percentage of the people that come out to vote, the lowest turnout is actually the municipal election. The highest turnout are the gubernatorial and the presidential.
Which I never understand why, but.
Because, as I think as you're going to say, agree with that, the local election is so much more important as far as your daily lives in establishing, which everyone worries about, is the property tax and what you're paying for services. That's all voted on at the local level, and you have a direct say. So who's going to be going into your school committee to establish the policy? You have a direct say who's going to be elected to the Board of Selectmen, who's working with the school committee, establishing the budget for the municipal side. But it's ironic that that's the lowest percentage for voter turnout.
I could never understand. Here I am, me, just using me as an example. I'm controlling in one form or another, in conjunction with my colleagues at the time, and the town manager and the superintendent of schools. $35 million budget here, with all the overrides and everything. And you can't get, and there's about 7,800 registered voters in the town of Millbury, and less than 2,000 come out to vote in the municipal election. Hello, folks, I'm spending all your money. But yet you take a presidential race, and Millbury has never made a determination on who the next president's going to be. 98%, well, realistically, about 78% of the vote, 68% of the vote comes out in the town of Millbury. Help me with that.
Yeah. Well, and also if you look at a big local control, or where the voters have, the residents have control in town that they don't utilize, is town meeting. The Board of Selectmen, the school committee, everyone could come out with their budget proposals, and if the voters in town aren't happy with that, with the, whether it's a tax increase, tax decrease, the prioritizing for school side or town side, the voters at town meeting can come out and they can actually help direct or redirect the funding how they see the money should be going. They can help prioritize it, even if they're in disagreement. And I remember times that we had problems meeting a quorum, that you'd actually have to plan. And it was funny because I was at an event in Upton, at the Boy Scouts event, and there was someone from there who was saying he doesn't go to his town meeting in Upton anymore because they always put the most controversial item at the end of the town meeting, because they don't want people to stay there for the town meeting. They want people to leave. And I actually had to explain to them, no, it's the exact opposite. They put the most controversial item on the town meeting as an article in town meeting to make people stay, because you need a quorum to vote on.
Right.
You need a quorum to vote on items, so they want to keep people there so that it's a legitimate vote, and people don't leave, and someone can question whether there was a quorum on a vote. But there's so many safeguards or power of the people, if you want to put it, on the local level that they don't utilize. So just hope that people come out for this election, get involved in the Selectmen School Committee. I don't know who's running, who the total is running yet. I think Franny King's running for re-election.
Right.
Frank Gurr right
Right.
now is taking out papers for Selectmen. School Committee, Bill Borowski has taken out papers.
And Kevin
Plant.
Plant.
Okay.
And you elect two, so right now,
Right.
as of the taping of the show, that's where it sits.
Right.
Both jobs are very important. And think about it, look at it. It's a thankless job. I'll be the first one to tell you that, because the first time you cast a vote, regardless how you vote, you're going to lose 50% of your support for the moment.
Right.
So, but you know what? You got to have broad shoulders, and you got to off your back, and you just go do what you believe is right, and that works for me. Mike, tell us how we can get a hold of you, unless you've got something else you want to add to
No,
the election.
Can be reached at 617-722-1485, and my email address is michael.moore@masenate.gov.
And myself, you know how to get a hold of me. My number's going across the screen as we talk. When you call down to the office down in Boston, you make sure you say hello to his chief of staff, Shelley, who works very hard, along with the rest of the staff. But Shelley is a fine addition as Mike's chief of staff, and is always willing to direct you in the right direction with other staff members to take care of whatever problem you got. All right, thanks to the Floral Boutique for their nice St. Patrick's Day setting here. We have a green bear, which is something you don't see too often. Some, I think those are grasshoppers. Work with me.
Yes.
And some books.
Or crickets?
Crickets. Crickets, that's what they are. Green crickets. And right in the mood for St. Patrick's Day. I want to thank Rita Sullivan, our director. And I want to thank, and today she kind of filled in and dressed us, Mike. And,
Yes, you did, yeah.
And of course, Kevin Kostopoulos for producing the show. Bob Sullivan, Chief of Security. And I think I've covered it all. I'd just like to make one brief comment on Kenny Scholl, who's been a friend of mine for 100 years. Kenny, I wish you the best. Kenny's been a long, dedicated service, not only as a member of the Board of Selectmen, but as a member of the Planning Board for a number of years. I hope you enjoy your retirement, and you will be sadly missed because you're one of the finest gentlemen that I've ever met in the world of politics, and politics can be tough sometimes.
Yep.
So having said that,
Yep. Good luck, Ken, in future endeavors, and thank you.
good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all of the roses falling. 'Tis you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be here in the sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy,